Good morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Hope you are doing well. Today is Tulip Day, so I'm going to give you the 2025 lineup, and then we're going to get these guys in the ground. So good morning. It is a big day here in the United States. It's Election Day. And so before we get into the tulips, I just want to say, please, if you have not already, and you are a U.S. citizen, please vote. This is not a political post. Who you vote for is entirely up to you and your conscience. What I'm asking you to do is to vote. Your vote does matter, especially in your local elections where there is no electoral college. Please vote. A lot of people died for this right, and it doesn't exist for everybody on the planet. So please get out and vote. All right. That's my stump speech for today. Now we're going to get into the tulips. So I've got a big box here. Haven't even opened it yet. So by the way, I meant to say the other day, I buy my bulbs, the daffodils, the tulips, my ranunculus as well, from Leo Burby. Now, you don't have to buy from there. There are lots of amazing suppliers, but I just wanted to put that out there. Someone had asked me actually here locally, where do you get your bulbs? So I thought, I should mention that. I have a wholesale account with them and I buy my stuff from them. Doesn't mean you have to do that. You can have beautiful varieties offered in your local nurseries. And the thing about buying where I'm buying from wholesale, is that I'm buying in bulk, right? There are 800 tulips in this shipment. So, most home gardeners are not buying those bulk varieties. Color Blends is another excellent resource. I know that Laura at Garden Answer gets most, if not all, of her bulbs from them. And I don't believe you have to have a wholesale account with them to do that. So just some ideas. All right. So, first thing I'm going to show you before I even open this box is this first variety of tulips because they were in the ranunculus box. This is it's a Darwin hybrid, and there's 100 of them in here, called Hakoon. Now, it's so awesome that they come with these labels because they're plasticized. So last year, what I did was I just stapled them to a stake and stuck it in the ground, and they lasted throughout the season, even through all of our rain and everything. So it was really nice. I didn't have to write specialty tags. I just stapled those on. That was super helpful. And they kept their color and everything, which was great. One thing that I'm going to try to do this year, and I say this now, and then watch me not do it in half an hour, I would like to plant them according to their bloom time. So, early, middle, late, I would like to get them in the ground like that, because that just makes harvesting a whole lot easier. When you're trying to harvest, because we're pulling them up from the bulb and all, right? So if I have varieties that are early and I'm trying to pull them up, I might disturb the late ones. And so I want to be smarter about it this year. Okay, so I have these here. They were shipped in a tulip crate. This here is a tulip crate. I requested that because I use these. In the past, I have used them to grow tulips. I just lined them with newspaper, filled them with soil, and put the tulip bulbs in there, and they were amazing and protected. Like, things can't dig into those. It's like a milk crate, only bigger. So those were great for that. But I also use them for storage in the greenhouse, just all kinds of stuff. So if you are ordering in bulk from some of these companies, you can ask for them to be shipped in a tulip crate. And just one thing to note, tulip crates are different from lily crates. Tulip crates are 7 inches tall and lily crates are 9 inches tall. Lilies are plants that need to be planted very, very deep. And so you need the taller crates if you're going to be growing them in crates. And a lot of growers do. They won't put them in the ground because they're treated as annuals. And so they will line up a whole ton, like hundreds of lily crates in their greenhouses, plant the lilies, and then, lay irrigation over them. And then they're in a controlled environment. But the crates work great for that. So, all right, that's an aside. Okay, so we have those. Now here, uh-oh, this one doesn't have a picture, but I do know what these are. This is Tulip Dordogne. I'll put a picture for you here so you can see. These are beautiful, and I grow them every year. There's 100 in this bag, and you can see more bags like this that I can use for very many things. Okay, next variety. Oh, this is another Hakuna. Okay, so one thing to note, there was a very big shortage, big crop loss in tulips this year. And so for all of us who ordered back in the spring, many of the varieties that we ordered weren't available because they just didn't survive propagation. And so we've had some substituted. I'm fine with that. Mostly they substitute them with something that's try to be the same color that you wanted, the same variety of tulip that you wanted, the same kind of start time. So, I mean, it's not like they just random grab bagged things. We still are getting what we had hoped. They're just in different varieties. All right, then this one, this is a double late called Charming Lady. It's kind of parrot-like, but not completely. It's definitely a little bit frilly though. And then we have, this is a parrot. This is Negrita. Look at that. It's like a reddish, blackish parrot. And it's got some like dark olive green in it too. It's really cool. And we have another one here that doesn't have a picture. This is Apricot Impression. I grow this every year as well. I'll put a photo here for you. It's just a lovely, perfect tulip to add into bouquets. It's just the apricot pinky color is just beautiful. Okay, and then the final tulip that I have, a double tulip called Ice Cream. I haven't grown these before. The ice cream ones are super cute. A lot of times by the time I order, they're already sold out. So that's the tulip lineup that I've got from Leo Burby. Most likely I will grab a few more in small numbers, but super interesting varieties from my local nursery because they usually have an amazing amount of varieties to choose from. They're more expensive, so that's why, because I'm not buying them at wholesale cost. But I always like to have a handful, a selection of some really interesting ones that I wasn't able to get my hands on because they were sold out or whatever. This is a beautiful amount of tulips. It's going to be great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So we have about 800. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this is going to look like. Now, tulips are super fun to plant. Kind of like garlic. They're huge. And so they're super easy. It's not tiny seeds you're messing with. And so these are going to go, I was originally going to put them in that bed that had the lilies in them that we called the tulip, that I was calling the tulip bed. But I think, to save my back, honestly, I think I'm going to put them in the much bigger bed, the 8x4 that Mike and Dylan built for me a couple of months ago, that needs to be filled. Now I have some cardboard in the bottom of it. I'm going to put way more cardboard in the bottom, and then I'm going to put a layer of compost in it, or this soil here, which is a compost 50-50 mix of compost and soil, garden soil. And that's going to take a long time to fill because it's a huge bed. Let's head over and I'll show you the bed that I'm talking about. So here we are. This is the 8x4 bed that we built. It is high. You can see that's 12 inches high, which is great. It's going to be good for a lot of purposes. It is lined on the bottom with hardware cloth, and we have landscape fabric that I happen to already have. So I figured I would just roll it out. This will help prevent weeds around this bed, make it a whole lot easier to tend to during the growing season. And we still have space here for another raised bed, which I would like to build. So I'm going to fill this a little bit more with a little bit more cardboard. The nice thing is it got rained on, so that's starting to break down the cardboard a bit. And then I'm going to get started on filling it. That is going to be a major job. I have to wheelbarrow it over, and that's not a huge distance, but there's some navigation here that's a little tough. This is on a steep slope. Then I've got to get it up this slope and dump it from here because I can't really go around. So it's going to be fiddly and I'm just going to have to take my time so I don't hurt myself. But I think we can get it done. Now the bed that I have down here that I was going to use for the tulips, I think I'm just going to leave this whole part of the farm for next season. I will eventually pull these out, but they're looking beautiful and it's nice. Passersby have been enjoying them, so they say. And I will have to like put hardware cloth down in all these beds. We'll have to dig them up and gopher proof them and everything. So it's a whole lot of work. That's for next year. But I am going to also, I mentioned this in another video, clear these beds off. Believe it or not, there's a bed here and there's a bed here. You can see the stakes. Clear these off, and these are going to have daffodils in them. Now, it might be easier for me, I know it would be easier for me to fill this with soil and just put the tulips in here, but I don't think it's enough space for all of the tulips, and I just want them all in one spot. So this is still a perfectly usable bed. I just won't be putting the tulips in there. We'll plan that for something else. That will be for, spring, when we start planning for the summer. The other thing is this dahlia bed, which we're still working on. I just need to refill it with all the soil that's over here. I'm going to rake some of this out. Then we'll get wood chips back in the pathway. This is a sweet pea trellis. I left the sweet peas on the trellis. They've dropped their seeds, and then they'll come up in the spring. So I just, I need to pull a couple of weeds behind there, but otherwise the backside will get some wood chips to kind of keep the weeds down. And then this will be the pathway. This will get refilled. We won't plant this obviously until the dahlia tubers come in the late spring, but it will be all prepared and ready to go. In the meantime, I've been considering growing a cover crop in here of buckwheat. The only thing stopping me, because I wouldn't care if it got eaten. If it got eaten, it did. And it would be great for the soil, because what I would do, normally if you're going to plant a cover crop, you have to have a plan before you plant the cover crop of how you're going to kill it. And you have to keep a close eye on that. With buckwheat, we want to make sure that it doesn't set seed. And we don't have winter kill in my area because it just doesn't get cold enough to kill off any of these cover crops. So if I was growing this in a bed in the ground that didn't have hardware cloth, I would just mow it down, like literally take the mower over it, mow it down, flatten it to the surface of the soil and slightly turn it under, put a layer of compost on top and plant right into that. I think that's going to be challenging because of the hardware cloth. So this is why I struggled so much with making this decision. In order to save the crops, I have to put down these basically gopher baskets in the beds. Otherwise they get decimated. As you saw, that there was literally no tubers left in this bed. But that means it's hard for me I can't broad fork beds. It's hard to figure out how I'm going to knock down this cover crop. Now it is a small area, so I could come through with a hedge trimmer and just kind of flatten it down, chop and drop, which I think is probably the best way to go about it. But I do want to start getting into cover cropping because I have space enough now that not every bed has to be full every season or every cycle. I have enough space where I can cover crop some areas while other areas are growing. And so cover cropping is really the best way to build your soil. And I would really like to be able to do that. I've never had enough space to do that before. So now that we're talking through it, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take the leap and try to do it. I'll backfill this, come out here with a bunch of buckwheat seed, throw it all down, let the rains do their thing. I'm not even going to irrigate it. And when it's time, we'll just use the hedge trimmer, chop and drop. Now, again, it's really important with your cover crops that if you don't let them go to seed. If they go to seed, then instead of being a cover crop, they've become a new weed bank for your bed. So you really want to make sure that you catch those cover crops at just the right time. All right, I am going to get started putting a little more cardboard in this bed and then start moving this soil. I think it's going to be a challenge. I'm having some joint issues again, and so I'm just going to have to be really careful and try not to fall or do anything worse to injure myself. Okay, so I finally did it the right way. I laid these out. This is Hakoon is my earliest tulip. Next is the apricot and Prussian. Then comes Dordogne. and then Parrot Negrita, and finally the ice cream tulip. So I've got the bed half full. That's important because it makes it way easier to plant these tulips. We're going to start over here at the far end and work our way this way. And you'll see we're going to plant them like eggs in a carton, so they're very close together. If you were putting these in your landscape, you would not want to put them that close together. The same as with daffodils. You would want them to have 6 to 8 inches around, sometimes a foot, depends on how much tulips will naturalize in your area. But just like daffodils, tulips will form additional bulbs from the original one, as long as you leave the foliage up all through the spring after they've finished blooming. On both daffodils and tulips, leave that foliage up until it browns and falls over. Then you can remove the foliage. That foliage feeds those bulbs so they'll come back next year. Otherwise, they won't come back. If you cut them down to the ground right after they bloom, that's it. So if you're going to keep them in your landscape and you want them to naturalize and your climate allows them to naturalize, because tulips need a much colder climate than I'm in 9B, then you want to plant them further apart. But because we are using these as annuals and we're pulling them up, bulbs and all, we're putting them in close together because they're only going to be here one season. All right, let's get started. All right, so we've got the bed full about halfway. And so this is perfect. Tulips don't have a really deep root system, so it's good. I've got my tags stapled to my stake, and then we're just gonna dump these and we're gonna start lining them up. Now, I know that Nicole at Flower Hill Farm experimented a couple years ago with setting up her tulips in their beds, but not turning them all upright, meaning pointy side up, which is generally what they say to do. And she had just as much success with her tulips. In other words, she didn't have any that did not sprout because they were sideways or even upside down. The sprout itself, the stem, will find a way to the top. But since I have some time today, oh, hello, little spider, I'm going to go ahead and just set these guys in. But you can see how close they are. And I have planted them even closer than this. The only downside to that is that if they're too close, then you can kind of disturb the neighbor when you pull them up. So like, let's say one of them is ready to be harvested, but the one right next to it isn't quite ready. You might end up pulling them both up. So I do like to have a tiny bit of space, but yeah, for the most part, eggs in a carton. And it works great. Now these are all the Hakun variety. I will have a space in between the varieties just for ease of harvesting and also ease of knowing for sure. Because when they really get going, if the foliage is really dense, it's sometimes even hard to see your stake and to know where one variety ends and the other begins before they're starting to flower. So I do like to have a little bit of a buffer in there. All right, I did not film filling this with the wheelbarrow, mostly because you've seen that a bunch of times. But boy, it was a bit challenging because I'm coming up a hill. It worked okay, but there was a couple times where I thought I was going to lose control of the wheelbarrow, and that would have been actually very funny comedy gold, probably. As long as I didn't impale myself on these rebar stakes off here that we need to put. They were for building this retaining wall, but I need to get tennis balls and pop them on top there so that in case anybody falls, more than likely it'll be me, we don't impale ourselves on those stakes. We just haven't been working in this area since we built the bed. So that's one thing I'm going to do. We probably eventually will cut them off at the ground, but we left them high just in case we decided that we needed to raise this retaining wall. I don't think we're going to need to for any reason, but that is why we left them when we did. I did enjoy wheelbarrowing for the simple act of being able to listen to some music. Normally when I'm out here, I am listening to a book, and I always have an audiobook and a physical book going. And right now at home, I've got an Irina Shapiro book I'm reading. I don't honestly remember the title. Maybe it's The Lovers. Anyway, But I'm currently listening to Louise Perry's latest Inspector Gamache novel. For the most part, I am either a true crime or a mystery listener. I also like horror a whole lot, so those are generally what I listen to. But I have a whole bunch. I really enjoy police procedurals, so I just like I watch on TV, I watch a lot of British police crime dramas. They do them so well, and I really enjoy them. But today I decided I needed some levity, and so instead of listening to a dramatic book, I listened to music instead. And Spotify just gave me my, a playlist for today, and it's been very fun because it's like the White Stripes, the Strokes, Pearl Jam, like a bunch of my favorite bands, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. So I've been having fun with that. It is hard to sing when you're pushing a very heavy wheelbarrow, though. I have discovered that. Now, looking at the size of the bed, it is possible that these will fill the whole bed. And that's cool. That's no problem. If I need extra space, I have other protected space. I can go ahead and use that lily bed. Not too worried about that. When I come to backfill this, however, I'm going to not be dumping wheelbarrows on top because that dislodges these guys and like rolls them all around and they'll get displaced and mixed up. So I'll be coming back up with a wheelbarrow, but it'll have buckets of soil in it, and I will just basically carefully dump the soil on top so that I don't dislodge anybody. They all stay in place. Also, I won't have to worry about the wheelbarrow carrying me down the hill that way. I had to use it only half full because it was very, very heavy. Okay, so here are 200. This is the first 200 tulips. This is the Hakoon variety. So I'm gonna put the stake here and grab the next one. right, guys, here we go. So I turned the labels to face out because I needed to be able to fit the hardware cloth right up against the sides. So could rodents still try to dig under this by coming up the sides? Sure. I'll keep an eye on it. If I need to, I can just lay something heavy on these sides, but I'm not super worried. I think we're going to be good. As soon as they really start pushing through the soil, then I'll take this off and we'll be okay. But I wanted to show you something. So when you get your tulip bulbs, they should all be hard as a rock, you know, really hard and looking fresh. This one, see how that squeezes? This one's rotten. That happens sometimes. You just get a rotten one or two. I had like 3 out of the entire 800. So, you know, I'm not complaining, but don't bother planting those because they won't grow. All right, guys, I'm wiped. I need to go pick up Aiden from school. That's it for me today. Tomorrow, I'm going to come out and try to clear off those beds down there so I can put daffodils in and fill this and plant it with buckwheat for a cover crop. So still plenty more work to do out here. We're getting there. As soon as those ranunculus are done and ready to go in the ground, then I will finally be planted out, but that's going to be probably about 2 weeks. So until then, I'm just going to keep hacking away at projects out here. And it's lovely because it is very nice and cool. I mean, I'm still sweating, but 68 degrees Fahrenheit is a big difference from 102 Fahrenheit. So I am not complaining. It's lovely to work in this weather. All right, thanks so much for hanging out with me, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one.